Hello and welcome to this chess tips video. This is the first video in a 3-video series covering how to improve your chess. So I did a little research online and tried to find different articles with recommendations on how people try to improve their chess, or how chess masters recommend average players, players of all levels, how they recommend that you can improve your chess. So, who couldn't use some information on how to improve your chess? So each video will have 15 tips on how to improve your chess. So let's begin here. And while I'm explaining these different tips, I pulled up some puzzles that you can check out as well as you listen to these tips. So the first tip is kind of an easy one. Learn the rules of chess. So that's obvious, but that can mean a big difference. So especially if you're starting out and you neglect to learn all the rules thoroughly, you might overlook a stalemate. You might overlook a chance at a draw by repetition, or the 50 move rule. So there are many rules that you want to make sure you know in chess, and that can make a difference between a draw or a loss, or even a win. All right, so before I go on to tip number 2, let's take a look at this problem real quick. So a rook just moved to attack the queen here. So what should we do? Let's see. We have the queen attacking our rook. We have this check possible here. And you can take a look at this problem, pause it at any time if you need to think about it longer. And I'll go on to the second tip here. A piece of advice that I came across often was just to play a lot. Just play a lot of chess. And the recommendation was to play more slow games, 15-minute, 30-minute games or longer. Try and focus on slower games so you can take your time and try and avoid mistakes because you're rushing. So blitz chess and bullet chess can be fun, but you probably learn more in slower games where you can concentrate and take your time and try and avoid mistakes. So once again, tip number 1 was learn the rules. And number 2 is to just play a lot of chess regularly. Try and play chess at least a few games every day if you can. And a lot of times you can see chess improvement just by playing regularly over a long period of time. You'll slowly improve by learning from your mistakes as you're playing. All right, back to this problem. What should we do here? We could just capture this rook, and then let's see. If we capture the rook, the other rook captures our queen. This rook captures with check. The king would have to move here. Then we could just maybe push this pawn up and get ready to promote. So that is a possibility. That's what I would think that we should do. Just capture with check. Then let's see, we can just promote this pawn here. All right, so back to the tips. Tip number 3, review your games. So not only do you want to play a lot of chess, but if you can review each one of your games, and if that's boring to you, at least try and review the games that you lose, because you probably can learn even more in the games that you lose if you can figure out what caused you to lose that game. So definitely try and review all your games if you can, even if it's a quick review. But if you can, try and look at all the moves, especially the moves that were mistakes that you made. And if you lost a game, try and figure out what your opponent did that caused you to lose. Was it your fault, or did he just play some really good moves? Maybe you can learn from those moves and try and play them against your opponents. All right, so let's move on to another problem here. Okay, the next problem, this pawn is just pushed forward. And what do we have here? A queen in the vicinity of the king. We have this possible check here. But we have to be careful. Let's see. Well, maybe not. If we check here, well, we do have to be careful of a back rank mating threat by the queen if we move this rook. So what would happen if we check with our rook, their rook takes, we capture with our queen, checking, the king would have to run to here, and then let's see, how do we follow that up? We have to watch out for this back rank mate. All right, well, let's see. Pretty tricky. Well, while you think about that, let me move on to the next tip here. So, as a review, the first tip was to learn the rules. The second tip is to play a lot of chess on a regular basis. As you play often, you'll slowly improve just from playing many games, and try to review as many of your games as you can. So the fourth tip is to solve puzzles. So, just like we're doing here, try and solve, even if it's just a few puzzles a day. But if you can, spend 20, 30 minutes a day on puzzles if you have the time, and you'll most likely notice some improvement as you do puzzles on a regular basis. All right, so what do we want to do here? Maybe we can double up our rooks, move our other rook here, threaten to move here, but that gives him time to maybe block. Let's see. I'm still thinking this move here, rook to e1 check, but he could capture. We capture with check. He runs here and escapes. So is there any kind of tactic by capturing here? The king would have to capture. Then what do we do? I don't know. This is kind of a tricky one here. Let's see. All right. Well, once again, think about this problem. So the tips were so far, number 1, learn the rules. Number 2, play a lot. Number 3, review your games. Number 4, solve puzzles. And number 5 is study end games. So a lot of people focus on openings a lot, or they try and just focus on what they like, and that's not bad. If you're having fun and you enjoy studying a specific aspect of chess, then by all means go ahead. But do not neglect the study of the end game. So, this is a good example. This is towards the end game in this puzzle. So we have a rooks and queen endgame here. So with the pawns, we have 4 pawns for black, 5 pawns for white. But black has to be careful because of this back rank, which is weak if he moves this rook here, which I would like to do. But then we have to watch out for the queen moving to c8 and delivering a possible back rank mate. So what else do we have here? Does this do anything? Queen to e3, checking. If the king goes here, we can check here. But then again, the king could just go in the corner, and then what do we do? All right, I don't know. I'm still looking at this. Rook to e1, check. If the king moves here, then what? Are we just... Are we just done then? Or do we just move our rook here and threaten a mate on g2? So maybe this rook, we just move here, threaten a mate right here. And is there even a way to stop that? I don't see any way. All right, so we'll just try that. And then now we can pick off the queen. All right, so that was an interesting little tactic there. Now we picked off the queen and we're still threatening a mate here on g2. All right, back to the tips. Well, as I speak about the next tip, I'll throw up the next problem here. So the next puzzle, the king was in check by the rook and moved down here to f3. So take a look at that while I go over these problems, or these tips. Number 1 was learn the rules. 2 was play a lot. 3 was review your games. 4 was solve puzzles. 5 was study endgames. Endgames can be very important, especially if you're winning a game, you did well in the opening, you did good in the middle game, and you're ahead material, and then you just get stuck in an endgame and you're not sure what to do and you end up losing. So study those endgames. Number 6, don't study openings too much. So a lot of people really like to dig into openings, but there are so many different openings that you can study. If you're not careful, you'll just spend all your time studying different openings. And, if you're having fun, then go ahead and study openings, but try not to spend all your time just on openings, because a lot of games are won and lost in the middle game and the end game. I would say probably the majority of games would be lost in the middle game and the end game. Now, if you are losing a lot of games in the opening, well then, at least try and pick one opening, one move that you play for white, and then just go, a couple moves deeper into that opening, or one move deeper into that opening each time you play it. Just slowly try and gather some knowledge. So maybe if you play e4, well, then you have to figure out what your next response is going to be depending on what your opponent does. So, at least try and have a good plan for the first 5 or 6 moves or so, and that'll make a big difference. That way you're not ending up in trouble right out of the gate, right out of the opening. You're just lost. So study openings. If you like them, go ahead and study them. a little more often, but don't neglect the other important areas like studying tactics, strategy, end games, the middle game, different middle game plans, pawn structures, do puzzles like this. All right, so number 7, double check your moves. So, that's a good idea, especially when doing these puzzles and in your regular games. Don't just make a quick move. That's another reason not playing as much blitz and bullet chess will help you, because if you play slower games, you have a little bit more time to double check your moves and make sure you're not making a serious mistake. All right, so let's take a look at this puzzle. The king just moved up here because it was in check by this rook. Now, what can we do here? What can white do? Well, maybe try and move this rook here, attacking this pawn, but it could just be protected. We could get behind this pawn maybe, but we have to watch out because this pawn is threatening to promote. So this is very dangerous here. This pawn is threatening to push forward to d2 and then d1, which would not quite checkmate, but it's close, because if a queen lands here on d1, checking the king, and then the king has to run up here, well, then the queen could move over to here possibly and threaten a mate on f2. Well, I guess g3 or g2. So the pawn would move here, check the king would go to h2, and then you move here and threaten the mate on g2. But it's going to depend on what white does here. So how can we, do something to stop this pawn? These black's pawns are kind of doing a good job of stopping us. So this rook can't go here because of this pawn. And this rook can't go here to get behind the passed pawn because of this one. So what can we do? We could go here and just pin this pawn. So that is one option. Is there something crazy like, well, I don't know. This one is quite tricky here. All right, well, take a look at this, and while you're thinking about that problem, unless you solved it already, the next tip, where were we last? Don't study openings too much. So the one we're on now, number 7, is double check your moves. Sound piece of advice, because you can catch yourself and prevent a lot of blunders by double checking your moves. So the next piece of advice is pretty interesting. Tip number 8 is that if you are below 2000 rated, use the 20-40-40 rule. So for those of you that have never heard of this rule, you basically want to spend 20% of your time studying openings, the other 40% used to study middle games, and another 40% on end games. So once again there, it's recommended that you spend less time on openings and the majority of your time studying the middle game and the end game. So, study end game puzzles, middle game puzzles, so tactics and end games. That should cover 80% of your study time. And then the other 20% should be on openings. So back to this problem here. What should we do here? White has to do something about this pawn before it just marches up the board, but where is a good spot? We could just move the rook here and pin this pawn, but the king would probably try and go here maybe, but then we have a check. Then where would the king go? If the king goes back, we pick this pawn off. So the king would probably go here. And then what do? We could pick this pawn off. And then that wouldn't give us enough time. He would be able to swing in behind here. I don't know. This is a tricky one. So take a look at this problem some more, and I'll review these tips so far one more time here. Number 1 was learn the rules of chess. Number 2, play a lot, play regularly. 3 was review your games. Number 4 was solve puzzles. Number 5, study endgames. Number 6, don't study openings too much at the expense of other areas of chess study. Number 7, double check your moves, and that'll help you avoid blunders when you make your moves. Number 8, if you are below 2,000, use the 20-40-40 rule. Spend 20% of your time studying openings, 40% on middle games, and 40% on end games. All right, so number 9. Tip number 9 on how to improve your chess is keep a notebook with your ideas, thoughts, plans, games. A lot of times you're studying all these different areas of chess, and if you don't take time to review every now and then, you may forget a lot of what you learn and study. So it's a good idea to keep a little notebook where you can review the things that you've been learning, especially games. You can go back over your games and check the mistakes that you made, and just see what you learned from your past games. Put notes in there on things you want to remember, things you want to improve on. But a notebook, a chess notebook, can definitely help you learn and remember the things that you're learning. All right, so number 10 is study tactics and checkmates. So you can do that, by watching videos on tactics and checkmates. You can read books that cover those subjects. You can also do tactics problems and puzzles like this on checkmates and tactics. So let's figure out what to do on this problem. Hopefully you've already figured it out. I'm thinking maybe the best move is to pin this pawn. Now, what if this pawn just moves forward here? And is there any checkmate threat of any type here? Maybe move here, then threaten here and here, something like that. I don't know. Man, this is a tricky one. So if we move this rook here, do we have the time? The pawn marches forward. Well, even if we move here, the pawn could just move down here. Then we check, and he goes here. Well, at least that blocks this pawn from moving. So I don't know. I'm going to go there, and they don't want that. So they probably wanted this move. Nope, they didn't like that either. So maybe there's a tactic in here that I'm missing. So this one is a little tough. Is there any kind of sacrifice here? Maybe we need to get behind this pawn. Nope. All right. Well, I am definitely having some trouble with this. Do we have to go all the way down here? No. Okay, maybe we have to go there. That is interesting that it wanted that move. I guess that threat keeps the king locked in here, and if the pawn moves, we have a mate right here. Okay, so now well, do we go after this pawn now? I mean, maybe we have to pin this. Nope, they don't want that. So yeah, this one's giving me some trouble. I mean, you would think, should we just take this like that? But now we have this threat. Okay, but we have a check here. Okay, and the king has to move here. Oh, but then we can move this up, and this rook will be able to get in behind the pawn. All right, anyway, that was a tricky one. So let's move on here. So the last one was number 10, study tactics and checkmate. So you can do that by going over these puzzles like this, trying to figure out how to use your tactics and checkmates against the opponent in these puzzles, and then your opponent's over the board. All right, so number 11 is stay positive and don't give up. So sometimes, especially beginners, if they're losing a lot of games and they're not sure what they're doing wrong, they may get frustrated and give up before they've had a chance to make a big improvement. So let me throw up the next puzzle here. Okay, this rook has just moved to double rooks here, attacking our rook. So what can we do here? It looks like there's a threat with the bishop, the queen, and this rook, all aimed at the king. So there's probably an attack available here. All right, so take a look at that and see if you can solve it. Okay, so stay positive and don't give up. Because let's say you've been studying for 6 months and you feel like you're just not making much improvement. Well, you might be right on that edge where you're about to make a jump up to the next level in chess. And so when you're learning a lot of new information, sometimes your play might get worse at first when you're trying to learn all this new chess strategy and tactics and end games and openings, and you're trying to incorporate them into your games. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time for the improvement to start translating into wins on the chessboard. All right, so don't give up. Just keep trying, and eventually you'll start making progress again. So stay positive and don't give up. Number 12, practice visualization. So this is an interesting one. A lot of times beginners don't realize how far ahead they should calculate moves. Obviously the further you can visualize in your head and calculate in your head, the further number of moves you can do that, the better off you'll be. But it takes practice. So you can do that by trying to solve puzzles like this and try and figure the puzzle out to the end in your head before you make the moves. So in this puzzle, we see this bishop is lined up on the king, and the queen is lined up on this pawn. The rook is aimed up here. So I'm thinking that you can sacrifice your queen and get an advantage here. Let's see. And if we try and visualize this before we make any of the moves. So if the queen goes here, what are the options? The king could just retreat. So that's one option. And then what would we do? Well, we would probably capture here. Then if his rook captures, we can move up here and mate. So his queen would have to capture. And is that enough? So queen captures, king retreats. Rook captures, queen captures, right here. And then, is that it? Maybe we have to do something different. So this is a good reason to visualize the moves in your head. And it might be hard at first, especially if you're a beginner. But as you do it more often, you'll slowly be able to see a little bit deeper in different positions. So queen captures. Now, if they just capture our queen right away, then this bishop will be pinning the rook to the king, and then we can just move up here and deliver a checkmate. So if the queen captures here, the king will probably retreat away. And then what do we do? Do we have to... Oh, then we can go here, capture with the queen on e1. The other rook will have to capture, and then our rook will be able to deliver a back rank mate. All right, so hopefully you're able to visualize that in your head. Let's look at it. So he runs away, then we capture up here, allowing us to deliver the back rank mate. So this is good practice, doing these puzzles and improving your visualization skills. That way you can think deeper in all the positions on the chessboard. All right, so number 13 is review master chess games. All right, so let me pull up the next puzzle here, and we'll talk about reviewing master chess games. All right, so the king just moved up here. We have to figure out how to get an attack going on this king, which is kind of blocked in by our rooks here. Okay. Now, reviewing master chess games. This can make a big difference in your improvement in chess because probably every chess player out there that, every serious chess player learned from the chess players in the past. And, each chess player built up strategy and tactics and opening theory. They build up on the previous chess players from the past. So, each generation, new chess masters make improvements, and they learn from the past masters what worked and what didn't, and they tweak it and change things and come up with new tactics and theory and improvements. All right, so what can we do here to trap this king? He's really boxed in here, or trapped on the h-file by our rooks. So I'm thinking we have to move one of our rooks and try and deliver a mate somehow. Let's see. We have to watch out for a possible check here. So I don't know, that looks like the easiest thing to do would be to just block any check by this bishop on our king with our knight. So move our knight here to f2 and then swing our rook over for a mate. Is there any way he can stop that? I don't know. I think that would do it. If we move our knight and he captures here, well, then we just swing over. All right, let's see if that works. Oh, he does have a blocking move with this bishop here, so I kind of overlooked that possibility. So now if we go here, now he'll just block with his bishop. So what do we do then? So rook here, delivering a check. He blocks with his bishop. And how do we continue? Can our knight do anything? If the knight jumps up here to deliver check, well, that blocks our rook. He could just capture with this pawn, possibly. I don't know. You'd think we would just continue here. And then, then what do we do? So we go there. And now, well, now it looks like we just move our rook here. And then we just jump up here. So something like this and there. All right. Well, I hope you got that puzzle. Okay, let's finish out these tips. So where were we? Tip number 12 was practice visualization. 13 was review master chess games. So, you can find so many different interesting strategies, tactics, study the games by the greatest players. If at a minimum, study the world chess champion games, from past up to present. Start with, Paul Morphy, the unofficial world chess champion, Steinitz, Lasker, Capablanca, Alekhine, Botvinnik. Study, all these great chess players and you'll learn quite a bit. All right, so number 14 is practice pattern recognition. So there are different patterns in chess. So let's move on to before I move on to the next problem, this is a little pattern where you use both of your rooks to trap the king on the edge of the board. Now, usually they're not, right up side by side like this next to the king. A lot of times they attack from a distance. But this is one pattern that as you play more chess and do more tactics, you'll start to recognize these patterns and see them more quickly. So the more you study tactics and then solve puzzles, tactical puzzles, checkmate puzzles, you'll start to burn these patterns into your memory and you'll recognize them more quickly, faster, and it'll really help you be able to attack better and ultimately checkmate more often and win games. All right, the next problem here. Let's see. So the rook has just moved to f6. All right, so what does black have here? It looks like black is behind in material and has to do something. So how can black win this game? Take a look at this. And, this is another little pattern that the more you play, you'll recognize these little checkmate patterns. So there is a checkmate here. Hopefully you can find it. So let's take a look. It looks like rook here, up to a3 checkmates the white king because this rook is pinning the pawn and the pawn cannot capture. So if we go here, we deliver mate. So a little tactical pattern there, of the pin pinned piece not being able to capture the checkmating piece because of this pin by this rook on the king. All right, so I'll review these 14 problems before I give you the final 15th little tip. So once again, the 15 tips that will help you to improve your chess. And if you stay tuned for the next two videos, well, I don't know if they'll be the very next video, but in the coming days, I'll have part 2 and part 3, and each of those videos will have 15 more tips on how to improve your chess. And if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe to help support the channel. And feel free to leave comments, suggestions, requests on what you would like to see. And also, any tips that you know of or that you were given or have read or learned that can help others improve in chess, please leave a comment with what tips have helped you improve in chess. All right. So number 1 was learn the rules of chess. Very important. You have to know all the rules. Otherwise, you could lose because you didn't know a rule correctly, or you could miss a draw because you didn't know the rules of stalemate or draw by repetition or the 50 move rule. Okay. Number 2, play a lot. So play chess regularly. If you play often, you can see some chess improvement just through a lot of regular play. Number 3, review your games. So that's important too. If you're playing a lot of chess and you're not reviewing your games to see what mistakes you're making, then you'll be more likely to just repeat your mistakes over and over, especially if you don't know what mistakes you're making. So review those games. Number 4, solve puzzles. So solving puzzles like this on a regular basis will help sharpen your tactics and your checkmate capabilities. Number 5, study endgames. So endgames are very important. You don't want to play a long game and then not know what to do in the end game, especially if you're winning. Number 6, don't study openings too much. So if you enjoy studying openings, go ahead, but try not to study too much of just openings, neglecting tactics and strategy and endgames and other areas of chess. All right. So let's see. Number 5 was study endgames. Number 6 was don't study openings too much. Number 7 is double check your moves. So as I'm talking, I'll move on to the next problem. They just moved here attacking our king. So before we make a move, we want to double check our moves to make sure that there's not an even better move or that we're not making a blunder or a losing move. Number 8 was use the 20-40-40 rule, especially if you're below a 2,000 rated player. Below 2,000, you can spend 20% of your time on openings, 40% on the middle game, and 40% on the end game, because most of your games will probably be lost in the middle game and end game. So it's more advantageous to study the middle game and the end games than spending too much time on openings. And until you get up over 2,000, your opponents, they could play a good opening, but if you just follow basic principles, you should be able to come out of most openings okay. But if you run into trouble with a specific opening, then by all means dig a little deeper into that opening and try and improve. All right, number 9 was keep a notebook with your ideas, thoughts, plans, your games, a notebook that you can review your chess ideas. That way you don't forget what you've learned. And number 10 was study tactics and checkmate. So just like we're doing in this problem. So the queen is checking us. So what tactics or checkmates do we have? Well, let's take a look here. Material wise, white is ahead. So we're in check. So the only thing you can do when you're in check is capture the attacker, which we can't do. Run or block. Now we can block with our bishop. And see, we can block with our bishop. And we could run as well. But if we run, are we going to be, chased down? Let's see. So we have to figure out, if we block here, the queen could just move up here and attack us. So tricky stuff here. All right. I'll take a look at this. You keep looking at that problem and see if you can solve it. And let me finish out the last of these. So number 10 was study tactics and checkmates. Number 11 is stay positive and don't give up. Sometimes you're going to get frustrated in chess, but keep trying, keep improving, and don't give up. Number 12 is practice visualization. So especially doing these problems, try and think in your head, at least a few moves ahead. Once you can think 2 moves ahead, try 3 and then 4, and slowly try and be able to think deeper in your head without making moves on the board. All right. Number 13 is review master games. So, very important. Study the great chess master games, previous world champions, the top players in the world, and you can learn a lot just by going over their games. And one of the best ways to review master games, don't just, play the moves on the board. To get the most benefit out of studying master chess games, try and play as if you are the winning side. So if white won the game, try and guess what white is going to do next. So before you make the move, let's say it's white's turn to move. Don't look at the move that is made. Try and guess in your head and visualize on the board what you think the best move is in the position, and you'll learn a lot more and gain greater benefits by doing that. So basically set the board up, play through the game, but if white won, and you can do it for both sides if you want, try and guess what moves the players will make, and you'll slowly begin to understand a lot more about the strategy and the tactics and everything that are going on in the game by doing that. All right, so number 14 was practice pattern recognition. So solving problems regularly, tactics problems, checkmate problems, you'll start to see more patterns and recognize those more quickly, and that'll definitely make a difference in your chess. So the final tip for today, number 15, is study strategy. So once again, don't neglect other areas of chess by studying openings too much. You want to study those end games, study tactics, patterns in tactics and checkmates, and strategy. So studying strategy is very important because sometimes in a chess game there are no tactics and it's a very calm position, and then what do? You have to figure out, well, if nothing's really going on in the game at this moment, what kind of move do I play? Well, then you might have to rely on strategy, maybe improving the position of your worst placed piece and trying to figure out where to put that piece. So here we see this bishop is on an outpost. It cannot be chased away by any pawns, and it's helping protect this backward c pawn. This is a good spot for this bishop. But this rook is not really doing much here, and the queen is kind of just stuck over here doing nothing. So even though black has less pieces, his queen is much more active attacking the king here. So back to this problem. What should we do here? Let's see. If we block, the queen can just attack us again. And then what do we do? Well, then we could move. Well, if we go here, the knight could check us. Well, maybe we run over here. Are there any checks? And we also have to watch out for this passed pawn. But we do have an extra rook. So, oh, we don't want to go here because that would be a checkmate. If we move our king up here, the queen can just move over to d2, protected by the knight, and deliver a mate. So we can't go there. If we go down here, we'll be checked again. We have to move. No, we'll be mated again if we go there. Same move, queen to d2. So we can't go this way with our king. If we go here, then what? Are we just attacked and then they pick off our rook? So I don't know. This blocking move kind of looks best. But then the queen's probably going to go here. Now what about this move? Here we have a check. So I don't know. It looks like this move. All right, but now this is what I expected, for them to attack us again. All right, well, as we're solving this, hopefully these 15 tips help you out a lot and help you improve your chess. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments, suggestions, requests for future videos, and also leave a comment with tips that have really helped you out, helped you improve your chess. Okay, now what do we do? Do we just run here? Do we run? No, there. Go there. He could attack us there. Then we have to move up to here. All right, now we just have to go up to here. Ah, they didn't want that move. Huh. All right. Let's go back. Well, what else can we do? We're in check. We can go here. I guess we got to go there. That's the only other option. Okay, well now this gives us time to attack. So we can go there with a check. Now, what if, well, he could attack us there. We probably have to check, but I guess we got to do that. And so now it says that is the end of the problem. So, what happens once they go here? All right. They probably should have showed more. What do we have going on here? You know, they could try and escape here. And then what do? We move all the way over here and attack. You know, if they come up here, we just start chasing them. Maybe our queen chases them around. All right, anyway, you know, so the video doesn't go on too long. Thank you for watching. And once again, leave comments with any chess tips that have helped you improve your chess. You know, what have you done to improve your chess? All right, thanks for watching and have a super chess day.